let me start with this one. This is the first book that I wrote. I've always enjoyed writing. It was like, from high school, even middle school, I would write like really bad poetry that you write in middle school, And I completely forgot to bring my anthology, which it's okay. But I did write an anthology. That was the first thing I wrote, which was a collection of, poetry, short stories, like haikus and that kind of stuff. And it was all done through like my adolescence before, I graduated high school. I found it in a little old notebook that I had, just, stumbled upon it, and I was like, oh, this is neat. I've always wanted to publish something, so that was the first thing I published, and it's only available on Amazon because I did it through KDP, which is like exclusive to Amazon, and I tell everybody this, it's terrible. Well, it's middle school poetry, middle school short stories, that kind of thing.
Like and in a book, an anthology.
Yeah, and it's raw, unedited, just like it was in my notebook. It's just now in a published book. So I left it the way it was. I didn't think about, I thought about editing and republishing it so it looks nice and more polished, but I was like, no, that's kind of like my origin. That's where I started. So as I got older, I joined the military. I had, an IT career, which brought me to this area. And when I was working on a job, I had to go off-site somewhere to a different location. And I was driving down the street, and I saw this church right here, which is on the back of this book. And it's actually in Culpeper, Virginia. And I thought it was really cool. I stopped, took a couple pictures of it, then completely forgot about it. And I want to say 2 or 3 months later, taking family photos, I saw the picture and the camera roll, and I'm like, oh yeah. And then I had all these ideas about, what if there was somebody inside and they were trying to get my attention, and I'm out there taking pictures, had no idea. And so it kind of sparked the idea for the very first chapter of this book. And if you see right here, the main character's trapped inside of a church and he's trying to get out.
Okay, so that photo inspired that.
So yeah, that photo, that church inspired the very first chapter of this book. And like I said, I've always enjoyed writing. I've always wanted to write a novel. So I made it my mission to get that done. Now this was like probably early 2016, maybe late 2015 when I started it. And with poor writing habits, I didn't really know what I was getting into. I always thought, you just write a book and it's done. No, there's rewrites, there's edits, there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it. It's like creating a puzzle and then putting it together. So it took me about 4 years to finish the book.
Wow.
So
congratulations.
Thank you. But when I finished, I had all this momentum, and a lot of people, when they were reading it, they were saying they liked it, and so I continued on with the sequel, which is that one, and that took me less than a year to write.
Okay, I was gonna say how long?
Yeah, it took me less than a year to write that one, but this one takes place in Northern Virginia, around this area. The first book takes place in Kentucky. And I don't tell many people this, but I'll tell you this. The reason why I picked Kentucky is an old Army friend of mine who passed away about 15 years ago. He was from Kentucky, and I kind of modeled the main character after him and put it in his home state. So that's the reason why I chose Kentucky. Yeah.
That is amazing. When you are writing these books, is it often that you get inspired by visuals that you see? Are you a very visual person? I know you do photography.
Yeah, all the time, actually, all the time. And I dabble in photography. I'm not great. Jessica's a better photographer than I am.
Oh my gosh, Jessica.
But that's one of the things, I knew you talked to my wife previously, but one of the things that we kind of connected on was photography. We both like taking pictures and doing artsy stuff like that, and she's a much better photographer than I am.
Stop, I'm sure you both are great. And then you also are co-owner of Reads in the Valley.
That's amazing,
which we had Jessica, previous guest, here talk about it, but that is amazing. I want to hear your take on how that came to be as well, just a little bit, and then we'll get back to the book.
Sure, no problem. Reads in the Valley was kind of my brainchild. When Jessica and I got together, we were completely broke. And to do gifts and stuff like that, I said, I've always wanted to make candles. Maybe we could make candles and give them away as gifts. And we gave them to neighbors, we gave them to friends and family members, and they all seemed to like them. So we talked about it and decided to make it into a business. So it, she since then has taken it completely over 100%, and she's doing everything by herself, and I'm so proud of her. But she's amazing. She's great. So when she puts her mind to something, she hits her home run every time. So
she's got a lot of passion with that.
She does.
Can you give me a little bit of a brief story on like what the books are about?
Sure.
Great.
So the main character is a disabled military veteran. He was medically discharged out of the Army, and he became a private investigator in Kentucky.
Okay.
So he opens up shop, and one of the jobs that he takes was from a mob syndicate, crime boss.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And when he completed the job, I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah.
When he completed the job, the mafia thought that they owned him, so they wanted to have him as a full-time employee for the mafia. He didn't want to do that, so he had to go to war with the mafia to get out of their employment, and that's where the title comes from, Clifford's War. A lot of people think it's like a war book about yeah, but it's not. It's more about his struggles, because he's also a disabled veteran and he has PTSD, and he struggles with a lot of different stuff. But and I write about that in the book. It's more about his internal war, his struggles, that kind of thing. So it's more of like a metaphoric title instead of like a more direct title.
Yeah.
And then I do kind of wish I titled it a little bit differently, but it fits if you read the book.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the second book, which
DC.
Yep, this is in the DC area, the DC metro area. There's some parts are in Philadelphia, but it's kind of up and down the 95, right?
Yeah.
And he moves his team to Northern Virginia to work for his former Army commander in Washington, D.C. And during a routine, infidelity investigation, he witnesses a U.S. senator assassinated. Well, one of his team members witnesses a U.S. senator assassinated. So the FBI brings the team on to help investigate. They pull on some threads, trying to find what happened. They find some government corruption, and they get targeted by the same people that killed the senator.
The mob people?
Yeah, well, not mob. It's just assassins.
Assassins.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a hit or whatever, and they killed the senator for political reasons, and so they find that out. They get targeted by the same assassins that killed the senator.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I saw that. I think it was the first book won the best book in like horror thriller.
Oh yeah, it did win an award in 2021.
That's right.
Yeah,
Shout
it was a book club website called Online Book Club.
Yes.
And it was, fan voted or whatever, reader voted, and it won Best Thriller for 2021. Now, the second book I don't have any badges or any cool stuff on the second book, but it won a bronze medal for 4 Season Book Awards, and it won as a finalist for bestthrillers.com. So it didn't win best book overall, but it still has a little.
Win them all.
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you come up with these stories? Like, does it have anything to do with your history of joining the Army? Maybe any inspiration?
Well, there is a little inspiration from there. I like I said, the first book, I kind of modeled it, the main character from a former Army colleague of mine, and some of the characters in the book are real people.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. The co-protagonist, who is a handicapped black male, is a friend that I met online on Facebook.
Okay.
And I asked him if I could put him in the book. He was like, yeah. And at first, I just wanted him to be like a small minor character, but I enjoyed writing about him so much that I made him like a major character.
That's awesome. How does he feel about that?
Oh, he loves it. He's over the moon. He loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one of the characters that's in both books is an actual high school friend of Jessica's. Yeah, and his name is Marlon, and he. If you read the book and you're like, people don't talk like that. Yes, they do, and yes, he does.
Noted. They talk
Yes.
like this.
Yes, they do. Yes, he does. He talks exactly like. I wrote him as is. In the book.
No need for fiction. He's just is a character.
Yep. He's a smart ass. He's a jokester, funny. No nonsense.
I love it.
Yeah, that's the way he is. So he's written as described. So.
Perfect. And what is the process like publishing for anybody out there who's like, I'd like to publish a book, but where do I even start?
It's every author has their own little process, and so nobody writes a book and then publishes it. There's always a process. So you have to do rewrites and edits, and you have to go back and say, oh, I got to fix this plot hole because this person didn't do this because they were here or they were there.
Wow.
So you have to go back and I mean, I've read both these books like 100 times. Just because you have to go back and read it and go, no, this is crap. I have to change this. A funny story I like to tell people is in the first book. Jessica was my proofreader. So I wrote this big, elaborate, sneaky, sleuthy, investigative scene in this hotel. And it was a full chapter long of him going upstairs, going downstairs, going around a corner, sneaking here, sneaking there. And she's reading this and she's like, I want to hit you with this book. She's like, this is terrible. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, have you read this yet? I was like, no, I just finished writing it. She's like, read it. So I read it, and I'm like, this is crap.
But I love that you have somebody who can be honest with you. Not just be like, yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great.
Oh, no, you need that. You need the constructive criticism, because if you don't, you're not going to have a good product.
Yeah, that's right.
You need someone to tell you that you need to work on this a little bit better. So, and she is that for me. She does. She's very honest with me. We'll bounce ideas off each other too.
I love that.
And I'll say, hey, what do you think about this? And then she'll say, no, I don't like it. That's not his character trait. That's somebody else. He wouldn't do that. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. And then how about this? And she's like, I like that better. Do that. And I'm like, okay.
You guys can bounce off ideas.
Well, yeah.
I think she was working. She said she might work on like a book or something like that. So that you really have inspired her. And she inspired you.
I talked her into it, and she's excited about it. My work in progress right now is a prequel to the first book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it should be coming out in September.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm very optimistic that it's going to come out in September. It's about 90% done. Just the work in progress. The first manuscript, first draft, is about 90% done right now. I have just a few more things to tie up, and then it'll be completely finished. But with editing and rewrites and that kind of thing, and the publishing process, I think it'll be around late August, early September when it's ready.
Awesome. That's amazing that you already have that process like a little bit going.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Where can people find these books besides Amazon? Like, can they find them in?
Barnes & Noble. I mean, anywhere online, really, you can find the books. Yeah.
That's so cool.
I do a lot of different shows. I've gone to different stores around town. I've been in Books and Other Found Things down the street. I've been at Birch Tree. And hopefully, again, this year I'll be at Birch Tree. I just sent them a application to do a local author event. So hopefully,
I hope that comes through for you.
Yeah, so hopefully I'll be back. I've been in several Barnes and Nobles in the area. So it's So I'm around. You'll find
me. Well, I'll be like, I know that author. I read him.
Yeah.
We do know him. Exactly. I remember Jessica had said. I'm sorry, I keep bringing her up a lot, but her dynamic duo. She said that you guys wanted to maybe start like a cafe with like a bookstore.
Yeah.
I really hope that comes through.
It's part of our 3 to 5 year plan right now.
I love that.
So we've talked about it, and it'd be one of the things that we would really like to do if we're able to get like a brick and mortar cafe and have books and candles and the whole 9 yards. So
that would be so amazing. And you could have other authors come in too as well and do the book signing. She had mentioned something like that, and I just thought that's such a good idea. You guys would be so perfect for it. Have candles and books.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things. Like I said, we've talked about the idea. We've molded around, and we would love to do something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then as far as marketing and stuff goes for your book, what do you like to do? I know you do book signings as well. How far? Where do you go for these?
The furthest I've been was down near Richmond, Midlothian. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
No, I'm not familiar.
Okay, it's right outside. It's right like southwest of Richmond, Virginia. And I did a event there last year at 2nd and Charles in Midlothian. It was a huge success. It was, I got a lot of people sign books for them. And the second furthest place I went to was in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. And I'm going back there again this year, so I'm excited about that. Yeah. So I actually have 2 events in West Virginia this year, one in Charlestown and one in Shepherdstown. So
okay, that's amazing. Any plans to go maybe somewhere west, or it depends?
I'm trying. It's very difficult to get feedback from stores. I mean, they get so many requests, and so many different authors are ask for events and that kind of thing. So you kind of have to rise above the noise.
Gotcha.
Be persistent. But sometimes you just kind of fall within that noise, and they miss your email or whatever. So if you're an author, if you're an author and you're trying to get events, try again. That's my advice. Yeah.
That's good advice. Yeah. I have a couple of more questions here. Going back to your childhood, I know you said you liked writing and stuff. Were your parents writers or anything, or what inspired you to do that?
No, my parents weren't too much of writers, but they did, read my poetry and stuff. I remember I was writing something relatively dark as a kid, and my mom read it and she got scared and she's like, "Are you okay? Is everything all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "That's why I write it down. I want to get it out. I want to get it out on paper." And it's because poetry can be emotional. And a lot of times, you feel something and you just want to get it out, and you can write something beautiful. Just be using just emotion. Yeah. So.
Oh, but I'm trying to get in your brain, like, how did that come about? You just started writing and you just, like, loved it? Like, what, did you watch a movie and you're like, you know what, I want to do that? Like, or I guess you were just born to do that.
I guess, I don't know. It's just something that I've always enjoyed doing. Like, just, it started off with just, short, like, 4-line, poems and that kind of thing. Yeah. And I kind of challenged myself to do things a little bit better. And one of the things I've always wanted to do was just write a novel. I never really got to it until I became, an adult, in my 30s. So
that's a great accomplishment.
Yeah.
People say they want to write books and they,
it never happens.
It never happens.
Yeah.
You have 3 because you're anthology, and now you have the 4th one coming.
A 4th one coming.
That's
and there's more brewing in the back of my mind right now. Yeah. So there's going to be a third installment.
Okay,
after
we got a prequel and we got a 3rd installment coming.
Yeah. But I haven't started writing the 3rd one yet, so that's probably like next year sometime.
Okay, take it day by day. You got to worry about the prequel now.
Right. You got to let the ideas marinate a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, and then just to wrap things up here, if you could give one advice or multiple little nuggets of wisdom to anybody who wants to write a book, or even if it's not a book, if they're an entrepreneur and they want to get their business going, what advice would you like to give them or let them know?
You have to put the hours in. Whatever you do, if you're writing, if you want to become a musician, if you want to become an artist or anything, you have to put the time in. Practice makes perfect. You can't hit a home run with the first pitch. It just never happens that way. If it does, it's a miracle. But you just have to put the hours in. You have to put the time in and work at it. It's a process. It's work.
I love that. So don't give up. That's a good one.
Yeah, never give up. Never give up.
Thank you so much for spending your time here and bringing your book to show us.
Sure, no problem.
And do you have a website where people could go and check you out?
Yes, it's jdennisonreed.com, and that's my website. Or, you can find me on social media. I'm on everything except for Twitter X.
Okay, Twitter X.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know what they call it anymore. It's ever changing, so.
Yes.